Hey everybody, this one is called the Roman Cult Slave Scam number 2. Copies of these documents can be found in my private group at Yahoo called Administering Your Public Servants. I have YouTube videos that are videos of private information shares that show these and other court citations that are available for donation. Donations to support this work are appreciated. And this last paragraph is for all the Satanist order follower revenue officers operating in their private capacity under the Federal Tax Lien Act of 1966. They can put their privileges and benefits where their rectal orifice, up their rectal orifice, because I prefer gold or silver coin. But as an extremely less desirable alternative, I can accept their IOUs, their commercial paper, their Federal Reserve notes, their PayPal gifts, their checks, their money orders. Please send me an email for particulars. Anyways, so in the Roman cult slave scam, we go through several steps that the Roman cult had to do to enslave everybody. And so we'll go over those steps right now in the first part. And what I would suggest is if you want to see what's involved with those steps, I would suggest you go and watch that video. Anyway, step 1 was to redefine the nature of a contract with private international law. Step 2 was the War of Independence. Step 3 was creating a bankruptcy scenario. Step 4 was making sure their bar members could infiltrate and see bar members' videos 1, 2, and 3. And step 5 was to disappear the true Article 13 and amendment. And step 6 was to infiltrate their Roman cult bar members and seize control. And step 7 was their Roman cult bar members convert citizenship into the opposite of what was intended. And step 8 was the Roman cult bar members circulate fake money under their Roman law. See bar members 1, 2, and 3 videos, and see there's no such thing as a bank loan video. And step 9, the Roman cult bar members create unconstitutional municipal corporations. Step 10, the Roman cult bar members put the municipal corporations into bankruptcy. See the no such thing as a bank loan video. Step 11 was through the bankruptcy process, the Roman cult imposes martial law rule. See the martial laws here video. Step 12, the Roman cult seizes a corporation masquerading as a government. See the bankrupt corporate so-called governments video. And step 13 was the Roman cult merges the bankrupt corporation. Step 4 converts all court cases into commercial transactions. Step 15, the Roman cult seizes control of all court cases and commercial transactions. See the UNIDROIT video. See the All Courts of United Nations Courts videos. Step 16, the Roman cult makes all U.S. citizens into enemies of the state. See the U.S. citizens are enemies of the state video. See the U.S. citizens are slaves video. And the Roman cult bail priests deny justice. See the judicial horrors video. That's step 17. That was the last step. And so, anyways, and now a little diversion. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. This one's a short one, so we're going to have all of this stuff pretty quick. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to click the bell next to the subscribe button so that you're notified when there's a new upload. And there's the front page of my channel, and there's the red arrow shows where the bell is. You click on that, a pop-up will come up. Want to know if you want to be notified, and the answer is yes. If you want to be notified, then you got to click the box. Anyways, so now to the topic of this video. This Pope Nicholas V issued papal bull Dum Diversus on 18th of June 1452. It authorized Adolfo Afonso V of Portugal to reduce any Muslims and pagans and any other unbelievers to perpetual slavery. They facilitated the Portuguese slave trade from West Africa, and that was one of the things that I brought up in that first Roman cult slave scam, was that the Roman cult was responsible for the slave trade, and this is just further supporting that. The same Pope wrote Bull Romanus Pontifex on January 5th, 1455 to the same Alfonso, As a follow-up to Dum Diversus, it extended to the Catholic nations of the European dominion over discovered lands during the Age of Discovery, along with sanctifying the seizure of non-Christian lands. It encouraged the enslavement of native non-Christian peoples in Africa and the New World. And again, there's the slave trade, right? We weighing in all and singular the premises with due meditation, and noting that since we have formerly by our letters and our granted and ours granted among other things free and ample faculty to the aforesaid King Alfonso to invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens, pagans whatsoever, and other enemies of Christ wherever placed, and the kingdoms, dukedoms, principalities, dominions, possessions, and all movable and immovable goods whatsoever held and possessed by them, and to reduce such persons to perpetual slavery, and to apply and appropriate to himself and his successors the kingdoms, dukedoms, counties, principalities, dominions, possessions, and goods, and to convert them to his and their use and profit. And by having secured the said faculty, the said King Alfonso, or by his authority, the aforesaid infant, justly and lawfully has acquired and possessed and doth possess these islands and lands, harbors, and seas, and they do of right belong and pertain to the said King Alfonso and his successors. And then in January in 1493, Alexander VI issued the bull Inter Caetera, stating that one Christian nation did not have the right to establish dominion over lands previously dominated by another Christian nation, thus establishing the law of nations. And together with Dum Diversus, the Romanus Pontifex and the Inter Caetera came to serve as the basis and justification for the doctrine of discovery, the global slave trade of the 15th and 16th centuries, and the age of imperialism. And so the point being is that the Roman cult is responsible for all the slavery that was going on. The Roman cult is responsible for the slavery that goes on to this day, okay? And they sell you into slavery in their so-called, in their jails. That's exactly what they do, and we're going to go into that. This is all coming from the Roman cult. The Roman cult started international law, okay? Think about it. And that's what that says. International law is a subset of canon law. The Roman cult equals slavery. The Roman cult equals warfare. And now another little diversion, announcing a subscription-based YouTube channel called Sovereignty International. The recommended cost of the subscription is currently $1.99 a month because it avoids the advertising only. Originally, when I set up this channel, I was planning on having some exclusive content, but I can't think of anything that I want on there exclusively, because my agenda is to expose these New World Order Satanists and the fraud and deception that they're engaging in. And so I can't think of anything on there that I want exclusively. For that reason, there will be very little. There is actually a Arlington private information share that's on there exclusively, but that's about it right now. And I'm currently publishing 5 videos a week, and the only guarantee that I can give you is that you won't get any advertising. Anyway, some people said they had trouble finding my YouTube channel, and a link to the YouTube channel is at the bottom. And this is the front page of the YouTube channel, and the link is at the top. And also, some people have sent me $1.99, and I didn't know if that was wanting me to sign them up to the channel, and so that's why I'm bringing this up. I have no control over signing people up to the channel. You have to click the Start Free Trial button. And YouTube, I'm sure there's some sort of payment things that arrangements that have to be made. And that's all through YouTube. And so you're going to have to deal with YouTube on that. I have no control. I can see some of the subscribers, not all of them, and so I have very little control over the subscribers. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. This is law, and taken from Webster's 1828 dictionary. Law is a law which is laid, is set, or fixed like statute, constitution. Okay, and then there's several points that fall under this 1828 dictionary. And point one is a rule, particularly an established or permanent rule prescribed by the supreme power of a state to its subjects for regulating their actions, particularly their social actions. Laws are imperative and mandatory, commanding what shall be done, prohibitory, restraining from what is to be forborne, or permissive, declaring what may be done without incurring a penalty. The laws which enjoin the duties of piety and morality are prescribed by God and found in the Scriptures. Laws beneficence acting by rule. And number two is municipal law is the rule of civil conduct prescribed by the supreme power of a state, commanding what its subjects are to do and prohibiting what they are to forbear. A statute. Okay, so that's what statutes are. And so, again, that's all for the slaves. Municipal or civil laws are established by decrees, edicts, or ordinances of absolute princes as emperors and kings, or by formal acts of the legislature of free states. Law, therefore, is sometimes equivalent to decree, edict, or ordinance. Okay, and so all of these laws and statutes that you see nowadays are all municipal laws. The law of nature is a rule of conduct arising out of the natural relations of human beings, established by the Creator and existing prior to any positive precept. Thus, it is a law of nature that one man should not injure another, and murder and fraud would be crimes independent of any prohibition from a supreme power. And so, but under this municipal law, they have to pass statutes for all of that. Anyways, number 7, law of nations, the rules that regulate mutual intercourse of nations or states. These rules depend on natural law or the principles of justice which spring from the social state, or they are founded on customs, compacts, treaties, leagues, and agreements between independent communities. By the law of nations, we are to understand that the Code of Public Instruction, which defines the rights and prescribes the duties of nations and their intercourse with each other. So, law of nations is natural law, but it also is treaties, which is contracts. Ecclesiastical law, a rule of action prescribed for the government of a church, otherwise called canon law. So, ecclesiastical law is canon law. Unwritten or common law is a rule of action which derives its authority from long usage or established custom which has been immemorially received and recognized by judicial tribunals. As this law can be traced to no positive statutes, its rules or principles are to be found only in the records of courts and in the reports of judicial decisions. And now another little diversion. My contact information is sovereigntyinternational.wordpress.com. My website is sovereigntyinternational.fyi. My email address is engineerwin@yahoo. My YouTube profiles are Sovereign Living and Sovereignty International. My Facebook community page, I deleted it due to censorship on the part of Facebook. My private group, Sovereignty International on Facebook, is being deleted. It takes time to ban 17,000 people off your group, and I'm not going to let Facebook profit from my hard work. My Yahoo private group is called Administering Your Public Servants, and my Google private group is called Administering Your Public Servants. And this is National Mutual Insurance Company of the District of Columbia versus Tidewater Transfer Company, a U.S. Supreme Court case, 1948. We therefore decline to overrule the opinion of Chief Justice Marshall. We hold that the District of Columbia is not a state within Article 3 of the Constitution. In other words, cases between citizens of the district and those of the states were not included in the catalog of controversies over which the Congress could give jurisdiction to the federal courts by virtue of Article 3. In other words, Congress has exclusive legislative jurisdiction over citizens of Washington, District of Columbia, and through their plenary power, nationally covers those citizens even when in one of the several states, as though the district expands for the purpose of regulating its citizens wherever they go throughout the states of the Union. So a U.S. citizen does not get an Article 3 court. They get a Article 1 military tribunal. International law rule. Remember we said that the Roman cult started international law? Well, this is the international law rule. This is taken from Jurisdiction Over Federal Areas Within the States, Report of the Interdepartmental Committee of the Study of Jurisdiction Over Federal Areas Within the States, Part 2, a text of the Law of Legislative Jurisdiction submitted to the Attorney General and transmitted to the President June 1957. And this is pages 158 through 165. It's excerpts from those pages. It's not a summary, it's actual excerpts from those pages. International law rule adopted for areas under federal legislative jurisdiction federalizes state civil law, including common law. The rule serves to federalize not only statutory but the common law of a state. State and federal venue discussed. The civil laws effective in an area of exclusive federal jurisdiction are federal law, notwithstanding their derivation from state laws, and a cause arising under such laws may be brought in or removed to federal district court. So the point is that all state laws are federal, okay? And this court case here is talking about that, how U.S. citizens, all state laws actually only apply to U.S. citizens, and how U.S. citizens get an Article 1 military tribunal. And now another little diversion, cubeyard.com. For great custom websites, domain names, and hostings, go to cubeyard.com. Use coupon code CY172 for 20% off your first order. Cubeyard.com, your source for websites, domain names, and hosting. Anyway, so now we go back to the topic at hand, and we were talking about U.S. citizens, okay? So every taxpayer is assessed a K trust having sufficient interest in preventing abuse of the trust to be recognized in the court of this field's prerogative jurisdiction. And that's in Bolins, 1912. A citizen of the United States is a civilly dead entity operating as co-trustee and co-beneficiary of the public charitable trust, the constructive Sesticate Trust of U.S. Inc. under the 14th Amendment, which upholds the debt of the USA and U.S. Inc. And that's a summary taken from 5 pages of the Congressional Record on June 13, 1967. And this is all coming from the Roman cult. This is taken from Tomlin's Law Dictionary, 1835 edition, Volume 2, under the definition of mort main. Yet still it was found difficult to set bounds to ecclesiastical ingenuity. See, that's Roman cult, folks. For when they were driven out of all their former holds, they devised a new method of conveyance by which the lands were granted not to themselves directly, but to nominal fiefs, to the use of the religious houses, thus distinguishing between the possession and the use, and receiving the actual profits, while a season of the land remained in the nominal fief, who was held by the courts of equity, then under the direction of the clergy. That's the Roman cult, folks. To be bound in conscience to account to assestic a use for the rents and emoluments of the estate. And it is to these inventions that our practitioners are indebted for the introduction of uses and trusts, the foundation of modern conveyancing. And so it's the foundation of modern conveyancing. In 1835, it's still the foundation of modern conveyancing to this day, and it does way more than just conveyancing. And who was held by the courts of equity, then under the direction of the clergy, to be bound in conscience to account to assestic use for the rents and emoluments of the estate. That's taxes. That's what they're talking about there, is taxes. Anyways, every taxpayer is assessed a K trust. That's Henry Bolins again. Having an interest in preventing the abuse of the trust is recognized in the courts of this field of this court's prerogative jurisdiction. Slater's protestations to the effect that he derives no benefit from the United States government had no bearing on his legal obligation to pay income tax. Unless the defendant can establish that he's not a citizen of the United States, the IRS possesses authority to attempt to determine his federal tax liability. Okay, so, and this is D.C. Code, an act to establish a code of law for the District of Columbia, located at 31 Stat 1432. The legal estate to be in the Sesticate use. And this is more D.C. Code, which was approved March 3rd, 1901 by the 56th Congress, located at 31 Stat 1189. And right there in the front at Section 2, it says, and be it further enacted that an interpretation and construction of said code, the following rules shall be observed, namely, the word person shall be held to apply to partnerships and corporations. More D.C. Code, Section 252, which is located at 31 Stat 1230. presumption of death, okay? So a cestacate trust is a trust for a dead thing, okay? And so they presume you're dead. This is based on Section 252. It creates the presumption that you're the cestacate trust, or that they're dealing with a cestacate trust. And this is my first Supreme Court case. When I sued the IRS, I took it to the Supreme Court, and that was what I said, under what authority are they assaulting me with this Title 15 United States Code, Section 44, unincorporated corporation. And this is the definitions. A corporation shall be deemed to include any company, trust, cestacate trust then? So-called Massachusetts Trust or Association, incorporated or unincorporated, which is organized to carry on business for its own profit or that of its members, and has shares of capital or capital stock or certificates of interest, and any company, trust, so-called Massachusetts Trust or Association, incorporated or unincorporated, without shares of capital stock. And so there's two definitions there. One of them is with shares and the other one's without. And so the point being is that this is talking about the cestacate trust, okay? Statutes equals contracts equals Roman cult. Did you give up your God-given rights for some satanic privileges? And now another little diversion. Check out my other videos, Bankster Thieves 1, 2, and 3, Churchianity Series, Bankrupt Corporate So-Called Governments, Bar Members 1, 2, and 3, Do-It-Yourself, How Not to Volunteer for the Selective Service in the Draft. Martial laws here, do-it-yourself, no income tax, do-it-yourself, no sales tax, do-it-yourself, traffic stops 1 and 2, do-it-yourself, free mail, do-it-yourself, kangaroo courts 1 through 9. Anyways, statutes equals contract equals Roman cult. Did you give up your God-given rights for some satanic privileges? But individuals, when acting as representatives of a collective group, cannot be said to be exercising their personal rights and duties, nor be entitled to purely personal privileges, where they assume the rights, duties, and privileges of the artificial entity or association of which they are agents or officers, and they are bound by its obligations. When that Satanist Baal priest in that kangaroo court says, "Are you the name?" and you say yes, you are saying that I want to be a surety for this fictitious entity, because that's the only thing they deal with is the fictitious entity. And Uniform Commercial Code equals UNIDROIT equals Roman cult. Did you give up your God-given rights for some satanic privileges? And this is the Uniform Commercial Code, Section 1-206. And it says, whenever the Uniform Commercial Code creates a presumption with respect to a fact or provides that a fact is presumed, the trier of fact must find the existence of the fact unless and until evidence is introduced that supports a finding of its non-existence. And so this is, which is the Texas Business and Commerce Code, but actually it's the Uniform Commercial Code. It's the same thing, it's just the Texas version of it, which is word for word the same. Anyways, proof of signatures and status as holder in due course. In an action with respect to an instrument, the authenticity of and authority to make each signature on the instrument are admitted unless specifically denied in the pleadings. If the validity of a signature is denied in the pleadings, the burden of establishing validity is on the person claiming validity, but the signature is presumed to be authentic and authorized. So the point being is that they're forging your signature onto a contract, and you don't even know that's what's going on. That's Uniform Commercial Code equals UNIDROIT equals Roman cult. This is all coming from the Roman cult. And this is UCC 8.114, Evidentiary Rules Concerning Certificated Securities. The following rules apply in an action on a certificated security against the issuer unless specifically denied in the pleadings. Each signature on a security certificate or a necessary endorsement is admitted. If the effectiveness of a signature is put in issue, the burden of establishing effectiveness is on the party claiming under the signature, but the signature is presumed to be genuine or authorized. And so the point being is they're forging your signature onto a contract and then selling it on Wall Street and presuming it's valid. That's what they do. These Roman cult Satanist bar member whores masquerading as a judge forges your signature onto a contract and then presumes it's authorized and authentic. Who's going to call a judge a liar? That's how they're populating the prisons. Carl Lentz brought up the issue of forgery against the CPS pigs when they stole his son in his successful one-page lawsuit after they had him in their possession for 11 years. See the Judicial Horrors video. Did you give up your God-given rights for some satanic privileges? The Roman cult equals slavery. He, the convicted felon, has as a consequence of his crime not only forfeited his liberty, but all his personal rights except those which the law and its humanity affords him. He is, for the time being, a slave of the state. They are selling you into slavery. That's exactly what these Satanists are doing. If a man be found stealing any of his brethren of the children of Israel, maketh merchandise of him, or selleth him, then that thief shall die, and thou shalt put evil away from among you. These Roman cult Satanists need to be put to death. International law is a subset of canon law. International law started with the Roman cult. UNIDROIT stands for the International Institute for the Unification of Private Law. UNIDROIT is located about 100 yards from the Holy See. UNIDROIT controls and governs the Uniform Commercial Code. Through UNIDROIT, the Roman cult has seized control of all courts. The Roman cult bar members are already officers of all courts. See the bar members videos 1, 2, and 3. The United Nations is owned and operated by the Crown and the Roman cult handlers. See the Crown is owned and operated by the Roman cult video. See the United States is a Crown colony and the Crown owns and operates the United Nations. 1 and 2 videos. UNIDROIT is coming from the United Nations. See the Roman cult slave scam 1 video. The United Nations maintains the international law collection, which is also coming from the Roman cult. They're using the Roman cult's international law rule to assault us with their fraudulent, fictitious Sestake Trust, U.S. citizen, slave. That's what these Satanists are doing. This is actually a book by called The Vatican's Holocaust, which is written by Avro Manhattan in the 30s. This is a sensational account of the most horrifying religious massacre of the 20th century, and I bet you haven't even heard about it. Avro Manhattan was the world's foremost authority on Roman Catholicism and politics. A resident of London during World War II, he operated a radio station called Radio Freedom, broadcasting to occupied Europe. He was the author of over 20 books, including the bestseller The Vatican in World Politics, twice Book of the Month, and going through 57 editions. He was a Great Briton who risked his life daily to expose some of the darkest secrets of the papacy. His books were #1 on the Forbidden Index for the past 50 years. This issue from 1986 and 2006, the record is now 70 years on the Forbidden Book list. Okay, and so anybody want to send me? I think I'll upload this book to the group. But The Vatican's Holocaust is available. I've got it. This is taken from the front of the book. And this is the preface to the American edition. The Vatican's Holocaust is not a misnomer, an accusation, or even less a speculation. It is a historical fact. Rabid nationalism and religious dogmatism were its two main ingredients. During the existence of Croatia as an independent Catholic state, over 700,000 men, women, and children perished. Many were executed, tortured, died of starvation, buried alive, or were burned to death. Hundreds were forced to become Catholic. Catholic padres ran concentration camps. Catholic priests were officers of the military corps which committed such atrocities. 700,000 in a total population of a few million proportionally would be as if 1/3 of the USA population had been exterminated by a Catholic militia. What has been gathered in this book will vindicate the veracity of these facts. Dates, names, places, as well as photos were there to prove them. They would become known to the American. They should become known to the American public, not to foster vindictiveness, but to warn them of the danger which racialism and sectarianism, when allied with religious intolerance, can bring to any contemporary nation, whether in Europe or in the New World. This work should be assessed without prejudice as a lesson, but even more vital as a warning for the future of Americans, beginning with that of the USA. And that's Avro, Manhattan, 1986. Editor's note: an armed Serbia could have easily prevented this Holocaust. Thank God for the Second Amendment to the Constitution, which guarantees the right to bear arms. Freedom, religion, and armed citizenry go hand in hand, and is the only guarantee that this won't happen in the U.S. Editor's note: it is the Vatican one world government that doesn't want you to have the right to own arms or to use any means to defend yourself. And so the point being is that that's the end of this Roman cult slave scam part 2. That's exactly what they have planned. That's what they planned from the beginning. And the sooner we figure this out, the better. And they need to be, all of these Roman cult Satanists need to be put to death, quite frankly. The Bible says that, so it's up to you whether you believe in the Bible or not. But I certainly consider myself Christian. Anyways, I appreciate you watching the video. We the people need to step up and start putting a stop to the Satanism that's going on these days. And I appreciate you watching the video. I hope you get something out of it, and have a real nice day.